All right. Well, hello and welcome, folks, to another evening of talking finances, credit banking, cash flow banking, velocity banking. I mean, it goes by many different names, but the principles all remain the same. And that really is understanding the bank, understanding the bank's products, and using that to your advantage so you can get a leg up, as we say, on the financial game. Now, of course, we're going to be talking about finances and all sorts of tax strategies, business strategies. We talk about a lot of legal aspects as well, but it's very important to understand that when we are in these discussions, this is general information in scope. Okay. Your specific situation is going to be unique. And what Richie and I talk about should not be taken as direct legal counsel. Always recommend you engage the services of professionals when making decisions, especially decisions that have financial impact. My name is Ray Fleming. I'm one of the wise guys in ties. Also, who I have with me here is Mr. Richie GP out of the land of Hawaii. Hello, Richie. How are you?
Hello, how are you, Ray? So excited to be here, dude. So excited.
I'm excited for tonight because we got a bunch of folks here that are coming into the webinar. I know we got April just hopped in, Catherine. We got Alex Galaxy S8. That's huge. We have
Oh, dude.
Samsung itself.
Wow. I'm so
Hennock,
honored. Thank
Jamie,
you. Thank you for being here.
uh, Jamie, Joel, Joseph, Maylene, RR, we got Renee, we got all sorts of folks coming on here. So thank you so much for being here tonight. Now, why I'm so excited is uh, we've been discussing this for the last year. Each and every week, we've been going over different strategies, and this specifically has not been covered. And, and I'm excited about that. We talk about, oh, getting to know the bank or going to the bank and lines of credit and loans, but we haven't actually talked about who's at the bank, who makes up the bank, and who do you go to for your specific needs. So this is important to understand because I think about it with saying the gym or working out. If you have no idea which machine you're supposed to go to work out a specific muscle, it could be overwhelming. It's a little intimidating. So you're like, oh, once I get in shape, then I'll go to the gym. Same thing with the bank. You're like, oh, once I get my finances ordered, then I'll go to the bank. No, 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 no. We're going to talk about which resource you utilize in the bank for what purpose. And hopefully this solves a lot of confusion.
It's so funny that you brought that up. I did not expect you to bring that up because I was just watching, not like I would say about maybe 30 minutes ago, for some reason on my YouTube feed. I don't know what it is in the algorithm that makes it suggest that I should look at gym fails. You guys ever look at gym fails on YouTube? You ever seen that, Ray?
I have, when you're in
Okay.
need of a good laugh. But I've noticed when I watch those videos, I feel it. Like all of a sudden, I'm like,
Hmm.
oh gosh, like my leg is hurting when I see them do something. Oh man.
Yeah. So it's really really. I mean, no offense to anybody who doesn't know how to use gym equipment and then get filmed at the gyms and get viral on it, but uh, it's just really funny that you said that. The reason why is because I mean, you talked about if you go to the bank and you don't know who to talk to about your specific situation. It's the same as the gym. If you don't know, um, all the information on what this equipment or this person works out, or the perfect form and everything like that, you're not going to get much out of it, or you could get injured. It sounds the same as the bank.
Pretty much.
So funny.
It is.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, I mean, see people all day long utilizing the products in the wrong way. So I'm glad you
Mhm.
brought that up actually. So
Yeah, it really is that way.
so for everybody that's in the Zoom webinar right now, why don't you go ahead and start thinking about the different professionals inside the finance world, inside a banking situation? Um, what type of positions do employees hold? who would you actually encounter if you're going, you know, looking for some type of line of credit, a loan, or you're just utilizing some type of financial institution? Who do you run into? I don't know if that's a great place to start, but I think we'll start there.
I think that's a great question, or that's a great, grabber actually. A lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't. I mean, unless you worked at the bank, excuse me, or worked with the bank a lot, you won't know. I mean, most of the people just know of an ATM and a regular teller, and maybe a personal banker, the person that you need to sign in to see, right? Um, Loan officer. Okay, so Catherine says loan officer. Very good. Very, very good. That's definitely one of the people that, especially when we're working with credit banking and velocity banking, uh, you know, creating that relationship with the loan officer will be very beneficial when it comes down to what you're trying to do. Anybody else?
So I'm thinking, okay, I walk into the bank. There's always, I don't know what it is about my bank, but there's always one person there, that's what is that? What is that person? The first person you walk into. Come on, guys, throw us in the little chat box there. You know who I'm talking about. There's
Lately, it's been a greeter, the person who opens the door to the bank because they don't want you touching the handles.
That's very true. So
That's what's going on here.
depending on the bank, for example,
Mhm.
Wells Fargo. Yes, the teller. Catherine, thank you very much. So the tellers. Yes, the bankers, the bank tellers. Lorraine in there with the. So the bank tellers. Those are usually the first person you see, definitely in the business, or like Richie said, the greeter, which is interesting that you bring that up because each bank, just like each business, with their own COVID restrictions, have their own rules. So we primarily bank with Bank of America in a lot of our businesses. And so Bank of America, you pretty much just mask up, you go into the bank and you wait in line to see a teller. And I had to go and make a loan payment at Wells Fargo. And so, there was a line of 50 cars for the teller. And I'm like, I'm just going to go up and go in. But then I can't. I can't get in the lobby without an appointment to get in the lobby. So it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Each one has their um, own, I guess, requirements and procedures, which also, but at the end of the day, they have the same type of structure though, even though they may be different there, as far as like every bank has tellers, they all have a loan officer, and who else? What else? Who else is working in a bank? So we got the loan officer, we got the tellers. Like I think you mentioned earlier. Let's see who else we got. Come on, folks. We're gonna. I mean, we know. This is brainstorming exercise for all of you to brainstorm on who's in here, who's in the bank. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and also I'll give you guys another one. There's always a bank manager.
Yes.
There's a bank manager. Now,
Perfect. Yeah, I'm seeing that right now. It looks like in the old days, the people sitting on the floor are personal bankers. We still have that here. I don't know if that's going on over there, but we still have that here in Hawaii. So there are personal bankers here, and then Jamie mentions manager, and then again loan officers as well. There's different people, different areas. So yes, you are coming up with the right people that we're talking about. Cool. Sorry, Ray,
I know no, you're totally good. I was just thinking, I'm like, maybe we should get a list going here. Maybe we could use OneNote or something like that. Do you want me to use mine or do you want to share yours?
Well, sorry, I just realized that my internet connection is kind of unstable right now for some reason.
All right, so we got personal banker, we got the, you know what? There's also, okay. So I've dealt with relationship managers. Um, I my grandparents, they were they had done well for themselves. They had owned a couple of businesses and ran some companies for 30, 40 years. They had a publishing company that did really well. And I remember that my grandpa, he would take us, and sometimes we would go out to lunch with this guy, and he worked for the bank. And this guy would literally just kind of catch up and keep this relationship built with my grandfather. He wasn't a business banker. I remember my grandpa just said that he worked for the bank. And so I remember that this guy, he would send Christmas cards. He would also get a Christmas card from my grandparents. And anything and everything, whether it was business, whether it was personal, my grandparents would contact this guy, and it was almost like a concierge service that he was the middleman of making sure and overseeing that anything they needed got taken care of. Now, I mean, I don't necessarily have somebody like that. And I don't know if it's, I don't know if that's kind of fading out. I imagine it's still there for a certain net worth of individuals. Um, but somebody else in the banking industry, I believe, that I mentioned, is a business um, kind of business relationship manager of the sort. So there's like a business banker. So, like Lorraine said, they had a higher deposit there. Most likely, yes. I mean, they had they had done very well for themselves, and they were the type that, I mean, my grandpa just wore jeans and old torn up T-shirts. He was that kind of person, but you would never know that they were they could take care of, a lot of folks. So they were really into some charities and organizations, and that's ultimately what they gave away all their money to, which was really really cool. Um, so let's see. We got personal. What about a? I haven't seen this yet. We're talking about this, and I mentioned it at the beginning of this webinar. I'm. We're not practicing any financial advising. A lot of times, they have banks have like a personal financial advisor.
Would that be considered the investment bankers?
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, because a personal financial advisor does what? I mean, they help individuals meet their short-term, long-term financial goals, planning for retirement, figuring out potentially how to pay for their children's college, um, really just trying to help you make the most of your money while it's with the bank and what services they have. So let's see. Lorraine says they often have both licensed bankers and financial consultants. Absolutely. Yeah. So let's see. We got, what else do we have? No, I mean, if I'm thinking about, I mean, those are kind of the people that are out in front. But let's see what else.
Have you ever run into an insurance officer at a bank?
An insurance officer. I probably have. Yeah. So I mean, like, okay, let's talk about that. What is their role?
Well, I don't know if you guys get this wherever you bank, but I know that I get a lot of the snail mail spam of opening up insurance products through the bank, such as life insurance and well, mainly just life insurance. Honestly, I don't remember them offering anything else but life insurance policies.
Yeah, I absolutely have. I mean, from our local federal credit union, I mean, I get things almost weekly about, life insurance.
Mm-hmm. And so they do have people, like I would get the card and it would just say insurance officer from, contact this person from this particular bank to inquire about this particular product. And I was like, wow, that's really neat that they have that. would I do it? But I don't know. But it's there.
So that's an interesting thing. The offers I get, they're like, oh, for you're already kind of pre-approved, or we cover
Hmm.
like a very small amount. So it's like 5, 10, $15,000 of life insurance. Um, I wonder about that. Why
Yeah,
do they
I
do
wonder.
that?
Okay.
So I have a question. And do or are, if you open up a policy like that with a bank, is the bank in return allowed to open up a similar policy as a beneficiary on you?
Ooh, that's interesting. I know I would if I was the bank.
I mean, like, because there's bank owned life insurance,
Yes.
and so that's what I'm wondering.
I
Because
mean, honestly, we're getting into a very awesome realm of wealth strategies here, like super deep stuff and very advanced stuff. If you guys ever heard of using life insurance policies, as a financial wealth tool, not only for yourself but for your business partners or your family, and being that you're the beneficiary, what Ray is talking about is the bank using you and them being the beneficiary. Am I right? Is that where we're going?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's where we're going.
totally get that.
Um, well, one thing that I don't believe many folks don't really realize is that many employers have insurance on employees of certain levels. If you're in a management position, many companies and corporations actually have insurance policies on those individuals. Especially, I mean, if you're definitely like a district manager, if you're a regional manager, I mean, or even if you're more at the top of the chain, where if you're a CFO, CEO, anything like that, that company itself is going to have an insurance policy on those individuals with the business itself as the beneficiary. Now, I don't know if many folks realize that that is something that's very, very common. Um, why is that, Richie?
Um, because we are never knowing what may happen to a person, and if a company is investing so much time and energy and money into a person, as a resource, because you are a human resource, and they're taking advantage of that. And if something were to happen, they're going to have to, fill in the spot, retrain, all that fun stuff. And what will hold them over? Well, a policy based on that relationship there. I mean, trying to take all the emotion out of it, right? When it comes down to it, a business is running it by numbers, and if the numbers show that they're able to, float that time between, let's say the human resource passing and them being able to benefit from that policy based on you or that person, it'll give them that time to go ahead and move on to the next part of business that they got to do. So that's the way I see it.
No, I think you're spot on too, because it's not necessarily like, a part-time employee or something like that.
Sure,
If
sure.
if they end up quitting or something like that, then just have to kind of bite the bullet and go through the hiring process again. But if you have somebody that's running, in charge of 150 different employees, and something unfortunate like they pass away, that then, I mean, it's going to help that company kind of weather that storm.
Hmm.
So, they're going to have to, output a lot of money to potentially bringing somebody else in, or um, I know a friend who took on that position, was filling a position like that. And, it's not like pretty much just throwing out an ad and you're going to find this person, somebody of high caliber. Usually you have to incentivize them to leave where they currently are or relocate. So potentially money for them to move, money for them for housing, potentially why they sell their other house that they're in, big enough incentive or salary to bring them in, which may be even more than you're paying the previous person. So I know we kind of went down another little tangent, but it's important to understand that there's all these different aspects of it, and those can definitely happen in the banking industry as well.
Absolutely.
So let's see. Okay, so
here, this is what I got so far. I got loan officer, I got personal banker, I got manager, I got investment banker, a financial advisor. That's why I kind of clumped them together. Sounds like you were talking about a business relationship banker with your grandparents, and then the insurance officer. That's who I got so far.
Now I know on the backside, I mean, banks always have like a collection department, or there's like
good one.
So there's collections, or somebody who runs that division. What else?
Customer service, I guess, if you're going to be talking about, the people that need to be pointed in the right direction, there would just be somebody who can point them in the right directions. At least over here in Hawaii, I know that things are starting to get automated. So it's like, press 1 if you want to reach this department, press 2, so on and so forth. But we actually have, customer service answering the calls and making sure that their clients or their customers are pointed in the exact right direction, all the way down to a specific person if you're trying to reach that specific person that's part of that bank.
And then, I mean, as far as other positions that we don't necessarily deal with, but of course are there, maybe we don't have any direct verbal communication with, but of course, whenever you have an account with them, just like any other business, there's going to be an accountant. There's going to be an accountant, because you want to obviously make sure that somebody is keeping track of, the transactions, making sure that everything is, I guess, up to par, that nothing funny is taking place. That's part of their FDIC insurance. There's also another person that you don't really deal with that the bank has. They usually have somebody that, let's see if anybody can guess this. It's very similar to somebody that works in the IRS. There's a division for this that in the IRS to make sure or to review documents, accounts, to see if there's any funny business. What is that called? Somebody who does what to the books?
Books them? No.
Auditor. Yes, Lorraine. Yes.
Every
bank is going to have an auditor. They're going to audit, in compliance.
Why did I just go straight to cooks?
So we got auditors, we got accountants.
Compliance officer, yes. I love that person. Let me tell you a little story about a compliance officer over here locally, okay? So my former company that I used to work for, we got into the point where we were able to build such amazing relationships with these banks, their managers, and everyone. And if there's another person I wanted to point out that nobody hasn't pointed out yet, that would be the underwriter. Now, the underwriter or the underwriters of a bank are the ones who are going to take all your information and then make sure that the product that you are applying for is going to match you, through all the different qualifications and everything like that. So building those relationships with all these people gave us the ability to gather all the information that we need to make sure that if we took on a new student, we would be able to, send them to the perfect bank for them instead of, people just going out there and trying things out. So understanding that all those details are, are in our information, are gathered for us to be able to just shoot people out to specific banks for their specific needs was very, very valuable, specifically for what we were trying to do for them, which was getting them into a credit banking or velocity banking strategy cater to them specifically. So that's what we did. The thing is, though, there was an instructor in our office who was teaching how to move money in a very suspicious way. Now, the rest of us, we knew that was not a good way of doing things, but we didn't know that he was specifically telling clients to do a certain thing with their money. And that specific thing was basically moving money in and out of a secure line of credit to start building it. Kind of shady, because this is technically what was happening. Okay. And I don't recommend doing this. Okay. It was opening up a secure line of credit at, let's say, $500, starting at a $500 secure line of credit. Then what they did was they drew it out, right? So it maxed it out and then put it into their checking account. And then they threw it into their savings account and then asked for an increase on the line of credit, the secure line of credit, which brings it up to $1,000. Okay. And what just happened there? They basically took the bank's money and drew it out and then put it back in to make it look like they have another $500. Okay. Now this was that's minor. What he was doing was on a much larger scale, which was kind of shady. And the compliance officer noticed that there was no new money going into these accounts. They were just building these secure lines of credit up and trying to sweep them down as they go. But unfortunately, a lot of people just weren't doing that. They were just getting the initial secure line of credit, drawing it out, and then putting it back in to grow their line of credit this amount. And then they started defaulting on it, which is really dumb. Honestly, it just wasn't the right plan. And so the compliance officer came to our office and said, whoever's doing this, whoever's teaching this, stop doing this, or we're never going to do business with you guys again. And I thought to myself, wow, okay, number one, it's very creative. I get it. It's a very creative way of doing things. But number two, I realized that there is a compliance officer over there watching every single account for any shady activity. If you're going to be drawing money out, and especially for a secure line of credit like this, taking their money that they're offering you secured against your own cash, that's fine. But you're taking their money and then you're securing it against their cash all of a sudden. Then it turns into something that they don't want to deal with. Okay. So of course that person got let go, from our company, and that all halted, and the relationship grew again. This is one specific bank that you could do this at, but they stopped it. And in fact, after that, unfortunately, the the lines of credit that they used to offer, they dropped the limits. They were very they started doing it more like loyalty based. So in other words, you can't just go ahead and open up a 25 or $50,000 line of credit with them, even though you have perfect credit and your debt to income ratio is like all the way down to zero. It didn't matter. You had to start with a small line of credit with them if you're going to get an unsecured line of credit, and then you got to work with them for at least 6 months to be able to grow it to the amount that you want. So then it started turning into a loyalty based thing. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you because it's very important to know that these people are watching every single account as we go to check and see if there's anything weird going on. So back to you.
I think you bring up a very important point, that there is a point system inside banks itself. And I don't think that this is, I think it slightly differs from bank to bank, but exactly what you're talking about. It's not something that they want to talk about a lot because banks work heavily on acquiring new customers. They want to acquire new customers. There is a point system, that goes into overdrafts, that gives you a certain rating inside that bank itself. This is more predominant in the business banking world, but it is still something that is in the personal side as well. So what type of ending bank balances are you carrying, do you have each month? And they rate you on balances And so when it comes time to getting approvals for certain things, they kind of take some of that into
Hmm.
um, they think about those things, especially in the world of business financing. That is huge. Where a lot of times they refer to it as like if you have like a low five bank rating, that's usually where you've had significant balances for long periods of time, and you're looked at a lot less riskier. Now the cool thing about this is when you are in that position where you're able to have a good amount of money with the bank, and each bank is different, maybe it's $10,000. Some they might want more. It's important to think about it like a casino. This is something I was just thinking about. What do casinos like? What do
To win
casinos
money.
like? But I mean, if you think about it, they talk about high rollers or people, a
That's
lot
true.
of times are they people of high wealth, or they just spend a lot of time there, spend a lot of money. Maybe they win money, they lose money. Um, but people that are putting a lot of money through the system, what do they get?
Comps.
They get comps. And so something to think about on the business side, and a lot of times we don't even think to ask for these things. And of course, you may not be in that position yet, but when you get to that position, asking for things from the bank is a great way to go about doing it. Maybe they charge a monthly fee. Well, now that you have some money in the bank, ask them to waive that monthly fee. Um, I know, like one of our business bank accounts, you know, uh, had a decent amount of funds in there on the regular. So the normal business bank account fee was $30 a month. And so we asked them, we said, can you waive this each month? And what's included in that is no charges for cashier checks, which
Mm.
a lot of times that could be $5 to $15 depending on the bank, for just putting out like a cashier's check. And so there's a lot of things to start to think about, especially if you have a business that's putting a lot of money in and out of a bank. Start asking for some of these things. And it's kind of one of those things we just simply accept it. We don't ask for the discounts. So if you are, and maybe you don't even need to have a lot of money to start asking for some of these discounts. I know one thing that I've asked for a lot of times, thankfully not so much anymore, but there's a period of there's a long period of my life where I may not even had enough money to get a McFlurry. So I've ran into situations where I overdrafted my account. So in that case, if you end up with say it's like $36 overdraft fee, which is where banks make a lot of their money, which one of these professionals should you talk to about getting that overdraft waived? Are they all created the same? Who do you think has the right power? So anybody on here who's ever been in that situation, or maybe somebody that's been in that situation, I think all of us. Well, maybe that's just me. I don't know, April. Who do you talk to in this situation? Just you could throw it in the chat box there, or if you're able to. Who is the best person to talk to in the banking structure? Catherine says the bank manager. I don't know. What do you think, Richie?
I totally agree because I've been there.
I've been there too. Yes, April's like, I've been there. Jamie says the boss. April says I have a loan officer that I talk to. Absolutely. I used to make the mistake of going to the tellers.
Yeah.
A lot of times they don't have the power. Let's see. Lorraine says I worked at Wells Fargo as a personal banker. We had authority to do so up to a point. Okay. So you would look at somebody's account potentially and see how many they may have had that year, potentially, if they've kind of been a frequent offender, potentially. Um, but yeah, I think that
It happens.
you I think you want to talk to somebody who has a little bit of authority, because the tellers, they may have authority to a certain extent. Most of the time, they're going to have to get a bank manager's approval anyway. Sometimes they may just say no. Um,
Yeah.
they may be told to just say no, because I know some bank tellers that have been told to just say, unfortunately, we can't.
I'm sorry, I got to point this out. Isn't that so, Lorene? Wells Fargo, apparently. Aren't you grateful to be a part of this call today, because you just found out some awesome insider information?
Absolutely.
That's pretty awesome. You can waive up to 1K in fees, or wow. And yeah, tellers had no authority, but we have the okay. So over here in Hawaii, they wouldn't go and ask. They would just straight up deny you. They'd just say, "Oh yeah, I can't do that. I can't do that." And they're telling the truth that they cannot do that. But what they're not telling you is, like, you should talk to somebody else in the bank. They never say that. They just, bank tellers want a transaction done. And the more people that they help and go through the process, the faster their day goes, or whatever it might be. Um, so for overdraft fees, yes, thank you so much, Lorene. That's some really cool information. So to your discretion, I'm not saying go out there and start, trying to waive $1,000 in fees or build them up. In fact, do not do that. That's not what we're saying here. It's just really neat to know what's possible out there. A lot of people don't realize the details that go into knowing how a bank works and how bankers work. And I'm pretty sure that Lorene could, and even Ray and everybody else over here can agree with me that all bankers are different. All banks are different. All bankers are different, and therefore it comes to their discretion. I've had discussions with so many bank managers and vice presidents. Well, by the way, anybody who's working with the bank, okay, Lorene, actually, can I ask you this question? Why are there like 20 vice presidents at a branch? Just just checking, because I am seeing that like, I'm vice president. I'm vice president. I'm vice president. I'm like, how many vice presidents do we need? Is this high school where every single grade gets a vice principal? Or like, because I was thinking vice president should be just one person, but apparently one branch has like 20 of them over here for some reason. And I think, why? I have no idea why. I never got to ask that question to an actual banker. So okay, second. Wait, they generally are training to move to. Okay, gotcha. So it's more like a, I guess you could say, an advancement tool for them, right? So it's like, okay, all these vice president bankers are wanting to move to manager or president of every other bank. That's okay. That makes more sense. I swear, every single time I talk to my banking relationships that I have, it was so funny because my favorite personal banker, she's also a loan officer. She tells me, "Hey, I finally made vice president, at Central Pacific Bank," and I'm like, "Yay! Congratulations, being a part of the 20 others that are at your branch." And she kind of just made a mad face at me and just pushed me away, like having fun and whatnot. But I just thought that was really funny that there's so many vice president bankers. Anyway, so moving on.
And they're all just getting in line.
Yeah, I guess so. So to me, now that makes more sense, that it seems like there's some kind of way to just for the title, they get the little, yeah, really, they get a little clout. To me, over here in Hawaii, this is the way I see it, right? um, the turnover for bankers at different banks is quite vast. It happens all the time. Like one banker I'd be working with, partnering with them, and knowing all the information from that particular bank and how they qualify people for lines of credit, different types of lines of credit and loans, and so on and so forth. And then all of a sudden, I try and get in contact with them, and they're like, "Oh, that person no longer works here," and so I got to dial up their personal number, text their personal number, and find out that they moved to a different bank, and now they're vice president over there or something. And they just keep changing between all these different banks here in Hawaii. It kind of reminded me of when I was working at Best Buy. And to become a manager or a supervisor or whatever other higher mid management type of title you want to get to at Best Buy, generally on the mainland, it's really easy to do so because they could just basically shuffle you through all the Best Buys in your area, and there's usually tons of Best Buys in the area, just like any other retail shop. But over here in Hawaii, we only got two, and if everybody's comfortable, nobody moves up. Because if we got managers and general managers and whatever working over here in Hawaii, and they're making tons of money and they're super comfortable, they never want to move anywhere. So they're trying to get these people to move to California so that way we can move other people up. But it was just like a stagnant type of situation. You got really good people, really qualified people who should be moving up to upper management or lower management, whatever it might be, but they just could never move because there was only two Best Buys here in Hawaii. It's the same thing with all the bankers over here. We only have a certain amount of banks here. We don't have Bank of America. We don't have Wells Fargo. We don't have PNC or any other big bank like that in our neighborhood. We only have local banks here in federal credit unions, and it's not like they could just move to a different area or different place. It's all Hawaii. And so I'm seeing people just bouncing between banks trying to get that movement up. But if those managers, they're all comfortable, nobody's going to get up to those levels. So for sure, good stuff.
That is
Anyway.
interesting. I've never really quite thought about that. But that's it's important to understand though, because like Lorraine was saying, sometimes just for the title or people get a little clout or for them to get a little like, um, level of respect maybe or
Mhm.
um, which brings me to a very, very important thing. And I was thinking about this today that it's been about a year and a half since I read it. I try to make it a yearly read just because the principles are so deep. There's How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. If you haven't read it, I'm sure you've heard about it. Read it, get it on audiobook. It's a powerful book. And, some of those principles really go into having that person treating them or at least genuinely helping them feel like they're the most important person. Um, I know somebody. There's an entrepreneur that's been very influential in my life. His name is Bob Snyder, and if you ever talk to this guy, I mean he runs multi-million-dollar operations and massive real estate investor. And so, but even I remember the first time I met this guy, and I was just a small little person that wanted to become an entrepreneur. I had had a couple failed businesses, and I remember that this guy at his level, I still felt like I was the most important person. And I'm starstruck, but I'm like, he still made me feel extremely important. I know Richie, you met the guy. I mean, he has this like, you just feel like you're special. I don't know how.
I gotta say, the first time I met him, I didn't even know who he was at the time. I just thought that he was some dude from the mainland coming down here, and just being a part of this big event that was happening over here. And I introduced myself. He introduced himself, and he actually asked me this really interesting question. It's like, "Whoa, so what's the point of you being here?" And I had no idea what to say. I was there to help out with the event. I wasn't there to do anything but just help out with the event. I didn't know about the company or anything like that. I was just some lowly employee at Sweep Strategies, just helping out with the event. I was doing the AV and stuff like that. And and then he left me with so figure it out. What do you want to do? And then that started getting my gears going about real estate investing when I heard everything that's been going on over there. And the next time I met him, at that time I had already become a student, and we were actually going to go up to the Centerville office to share our strategy, the what turned into Velocity Banking. And I was actually going to help out with a small part of the coaching. They were going to film it specifically for certain students and whatnot live, and it was really neat. After my boss went up to do his thing, and when I got there, and I wasn't expected to go, by the way. I was unannounced. I was just like one of those times where it's like my boss says, "Hey, pack your bag. We're going to go to Utah, for a couple of days." And I'm like, "Well, let me make sure. Just don't. Don't worry about it. Just go. Or, go ahead and give me just pay for your ticket. I'll reimburse you. Blah blah blah. Okay, okay, that's fine. So that's what I did. Got on the plane, landed, got taken to the office, and he was coming down the stairs, and then I was like, oh yeah, that's Bob Snyder. I didn't. I was just thinking it, and then he just comes over and he says, Richie, and I was shocked because he only met me that one time, and he remembered who I was. He remembered me helping out with the AV equipment. He remembered just this lowly dude, and for sure, yes, I felt super special and important because I was just so blown away by this guy's memory and his ability to really just impact you with just a few words. It's really neat. So yeah.
Well, okay, so you hit on some of these points. I would say that in that book, in things that I've used, which one it's being genuinely interested in other people, it's smiling, and also, I'm kind of giving you guys the cliff notes of this right now, but a person's name is really what does he say? He says it's like the sweetest and most important sound in any language. It's somebody's name, knowing somebody's name. And so when you're dealing with somebody at the bank, think about these principles. I know everybody on here is, in the positive mindset, or else you wouldn't even be on this webinar. But I know that you have friends and you have family members who are, let's just say, in a negative spiral. With everything that's going on right now, it's easy to get pulled into that trap. And so I've been seeing people, and I'm sure all of you have as well, that have been like losing their marbles over stuff. Like, I think I saw somebody going off on well, we'll just say, there's a coffee shop, it's pretty well known. I'm sure you have one in your local area. It's, there's somebody that was going off on basically because their coffee was wrong. And I'm just thinking to myself, I said, man, we have completely lost it. I mean, just the fact that you're able to afford that $6 coffee, think about that. Like, you chill out. These people are just trying to get through the day as well as us. So when you go, let's say you have an overdraft, it is something that maybe it wasn't your fault. Maybe it was something at the bank. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but take this and share it to somebody else who needs to hear it, because the best way to get through this, yeah, it's finding the right person, going to the branch manager or something like that. But the old saying of you'll catch more bees with honey than a gallon of gall, and so or a tablespoon of honey. I'll get all my phrases and sayings right one day, but going in there, using their name, asking them by name, and asking them, well, actually first thanking them. That's a great way to go about it. So if I go in here and Richie's the branch manager, I'd be like, hey Richie, thank you for helping me today. And that's usually the first thing I start with, because honestly, I'm genuine that they're helping me. I'm thankful for that. I want them to know that I'm thankful for that. And this doesn't have to be just an overdraft fee. I mean, think about if you want to lower your internet bill, your phone bill, whatever.
Your APR.
Ooh. Yeah. The person that you are talking to on the phone is that gatekeeper. And they are going to decide if they are going to put a bad mark in your note section, or they're going to pass you off to somebody else. Thank them for helping you out, because ultimately they're going to appreciate that and you're going to stand out. Second, be calm and calm and nice, and be like, I need your help with this. Can you please help me with that? And at the end of the day, I do not know a single person who is not willing to help somebody out when they approach them in that way. Mm-hmm. So just the kindness thought of the day. When everything is going wrong, just remember, if you ask nicely, most likely you're going to get what you want, because nobody wants to be yelled at. Sure. I was just thinking about that today. I was like, man, we all need to love each other a little bit more. We're getting too worked up. We're all getting too worked up. We need to just spread the love and thank each other for doing their job and helping us out. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I actually, to that point, it was really neat because we had just closed on a property, and we had, I had a big check to deposit, and generally with those big checks coming from a specific source. So in this case, it was my business partner, and I have never, for this particular bank and this particular account, I've never deposited a check from my business partner to, this account for this business. And what does generally happen when you give them a big fat check? What usually happens, right?
10-day hold.
Yeah, that's a heck of a long time, right? And so I remember approaching them and or approaching the teller. It was a teller. This is really neat. So this is a teller, and I asked her, so well, number one, I said, thank you so much for being open today. I know you guys are, dealing with a lot of customers and everything along with what's going on with COVID. So, you're a beast for coming in and working like this. So thank you. And she's, of course I was genuine in that because I really did want to give her my gratitude for being open and working today, kind of a thing, right? And she really appreciated that. And then I came up with the questions like, is there a possibility of figuring out how to shrink that hold time? Considering this is my business account and and everything like that, and my business partner, he's coming from the same type of situation, but when he talks to his banker, it's really easy for him to just wipe out the thing. And she's like, oh well, I have to talk to a manager about that, you know, but and I was in a rush, so I couldn't wait for a manager to come down and start talking to me or anything like that, and I wasn't in the process of working with my personal banker who was on vacation at the time. So I just decided, go in and then ask. But unfortunately, she couldn't help me at that point. But what was really funny is when I got home, I get a call, and it's that banker. And she's like, "Hi, Richard. I think I helped you. I was the teller that helped you with your deposit today. So I went ahead and talked to the bank manager myself, and we waived the 10-day fee, so all the funds are available to you." And I'm like, "Whoa." Thank you so much. Her name was Lisa. I remember her name, and I gave her my gratitude and I thanked her very much. And so, to me, that was very important to know that just that gratitude goes a long way with these with a lot of customer service and oriented people, to make sure that aside from just asking for it, there's more to it, because she went out of her way to ask to get that 10-day hold waived, which was quite astonishing to me, actually, because I never had that happen before. So that was neat. So thank you for that, Ray.
No, that's excellent. It's so true.
So yeah, and to me, what the whole point of this whole entire talk about who the bank is it really comes down to knowing who you talk to, what structure is going on in the bank. For those who are bankers who worked in the bank, that there's a process, there is I guess you could say a level of clout in different areas of the bank, from the greeter all the way down to the underwriters, making the judgment call on your situation. I even have bank managers in my banks who actually override the overriders, which is really neat. Okay, I don't know if that happens a lot in different areas, but I know that specific banks over here, because the relationship is super super important. And when you have that relationship with a bank manager, and you want to get something, or see if you could push something through, or even get a better rate, or maybe you're teetering on not approved or not being approved, the bank manager uses their discretion to let that happen or let it not happen. And I've actually have that happen to me, because in my own business account, I wanted to open up a business line of credit. This was a cash line of credit specifically for my business, and because my utilization at the time was a little high, my credit score was a little lower than um, what their qualification was. So when I hit the underwriter, they just basically denied it. As soon as that credit score showed that it was lower than their expectation or lower than their standard, they basically just said, "Oh yeah, he's not being approved." But that relationship with that bank manager let it, I guess, go through, and they were able to approve me for a $25,000 business line of credit, just straight cash and at a really low interest rate, which is really neat. The goal is to know how to talk to the bank. The goal is to know who to talk to and how to make it work for you, because it's not about a transaction. Now, for certain bankers, it's a transaction, but for specific areas of the bank, different people, again, all bankers are different, all banks are different. Building those specific relationships with them, actually making time to say how are you and your family, how was your vacation, how was the holidays for you. Those little things go a long way, because uh, you just be genuine about showing that you care and that you're grateful for the help that you're getting. you know it's like Ray says, you should be grateful for the fact that you could afford a $6 latte and not get so angry about it if something goes weird or wrong, or if it takes too long. Everybody's dealing with a lot of things right now. We don't know what that banker is dealing with at home. It could be so many different things, and believe me, I know, because I've helped a lot of people through their situations. And it's really interesting when you start talking about finances, how much things open up beyond financing. um, I had a realtor one time saying that she was having such a hard time, working with her husband on the finances, that it's coming to the point where they might get divorced. And, she's whispering it to me. And I'm like, whoa, I don't, I wish I could help you with that specific thing. But gosh, what information that I got from you, what this is like, this is me thinking. I didn't say anything, in that sense, but this is me thinking like, wow, what in the world did I say to rub her a certain way to trust me with that information? It must have been, just me asking how things were. Like, look at the numbers, and let's trust the process and trust the ability. But then all of a sudden, it turned into, she's telling me about her personal situation, and I'm like, okay, wow, I must have done something interesting or something good to have her trust me with that information, and to use that information to better her situation. Because now all of a sudden, I was able to tell her, look, how possible is it for your husband to accompany you to our next meeting together, so that way we could actually go through this stuff together, so that way I get both of your buy-ins, not just you. Because if your husband's not going to look at these things and follow the process, it's probably not going to work as well as you think it might. So would it be possible to, get your husband to come next time? And sure enough, they did. They got on the same page. They came up with an amazing plan together, and they were able to destroy their debt. Considering that a lot of realtors have a lot of debt, from my experience anyway. So, just knowing those little ideas, those little things of saying the right thing, um, how to win friends and influence people. It's a great read. Um, it really does help with these relationship building tools. And if you want to build that relationship with a banker, it's good to know who to build that relationship with. So that's why we're listing all these things down. That's why we're, talking about bankers. That's why we're talking about banks and who to actually talk to and build those relationships with. So that way you can get what you need to make this strategy work correctly. So
Perfect. A- And don't wait to start. Dig your well, like they say, dig your well before you're thirsty. How long does it take to build a year long relationship, Richie? How long does that take?
oh, in my case, I'm able to do that in like 30 seconds.
But right, I mean, any relationship it takes time to
Yeah,
build.
it does take time. I'm just saying.
You can use those, you know, there's all sorts of tactics you can use to kind of cut the time down. But in reality, Lorraine, thanks for being here tonight. And yeah, it's top of the hour. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. Now, this is really important because we want to start talking about this as far as who and what is in the banks. But this is important. We're going to be going through a process of filming some more videos and that go into the depths of conversations. to have with the specific individuals at the bank, as far as loan officers, business bankers. What kind of conversations, how does that actually play out to be able to effectively communicate your needs and wants across to them? Because I've seen a lot of folks, they go into the bank thinking that they're going to be getting a line of credit and walked out with a loan. So, I mean, things like that, just being able to properly communicate what it is that you even need and who you can communicate that to. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into this. You want to make sure that you guys have access to these. And so, yeah, make sure you get signed up for over at levelupinreallife.com. That way, as we continue to get this content out to you, that is there for you. Also, tonight, doing another round of cash flow over on Twitch TV, twitch.tv, the Level Up in Real Life at twitch.tv. We're going to be in another advanced round of playing cash flow. So come on and join it. Check it out. Twitch TV, it's in the chat box right there, twitch.tv. Search Level Up in Real Life, all one word. About 20-30 minutes from now, we'll be live, right, Richard?
Yeah, somewhere around there, sure.
Yeah, we'll be live for another, and we'll be on there for at least an hour and a half or so. But come on there, because we do financial strategies on there. We're doing real estate strategies, business acquisition strategies, and we are actually just simply role playing. And I'll tell you, I mean, this is what we do all day, every day. I know Richie's been closing some real estate deals this week, working on some stuff. We're selling a couple of properties right now. We got all sorts of things going on, but it's like Michael Jordan. You got to practice. Any kind of professional needs to practice their sport, and you can't just wait until you get that deal in your hand. You got to practice or watch other people play the game and learn and pick up what they're doing. So that's why we do it each and every week. Come check it out. Cash flow, where we strategize what we do in real life, but in a game where if we lose the money there, that's okay. We can learn so we don't lose it in real life.
Yeah, it's been really an amazing and blessed week for us to be able to close on 2 properties at once.
Nice.
Now these are in Utah, so it's not over here, but these are buy and holds. These are properties that number one, I had zero money out of my pocket. I didn't even use any of my own money or even my own credit to get both of these properties to now be paying me in cash flow every single month. Number two, believe it or not, those properties, to acquire them, I was able to get money from them instead of me putting money into them. It's so amazing what we know on how to do this. This is level 3 stuff. Okay, so keep this in mind when we talk about level up in real life. Level 1 is about repairing or building credit or restoring credit. Level 2 is about just straight debt pay down to lay that foundation. And if you decide you want to go to level 3, which is what I'm talking about, being able to acquire property and be able to get cash flow, increase cash flow, build that retirement faucet, not a bucket, but a faucet, and learn how to do these things creatively to where all of a sudden these 2 properties are paying you to take them on. I mean, that's, believe it or not, I got, I guess I could disclose this to you. And results are not typical, so keep this in mind. As we always talk about these things, I was able to actually get paid $20,000 to take on these 2 properties, and they're going to be cash flowing me every month. So I hope that's okay to share, because you just got to realize this is what
amazing.
We do. Right?
That's amazing. I want that for everybody.
Yeah.
Because in the world that we deal with, there's no shortage. There's no shortage of properties. There's no shortage of money. We want you all to experience this success, because there's just simply not enough people going out for it. Everybody else is caught up with something else, and go out and get it. There's so many opportunities right now. Go out and get it. Oh, which brings us to the next point. Before we end this webinar, next week, bring your questions, your concerns, your comments. whatever it is, whatever you've been working on in your financial situation. If you have a question about the bank, if you got a question about lines of credit, if you got questions about loans, whatever your questions are, bring them next week for Q&A. We're just going to open up the floor. Any and everything is fair game. Questions galore. Fire away. We're going to do our best to, from our personal experience, be able to get you whether it's a personal experience or somebody we know, we will do our best to answer those, and hopefully that will solve whatever issue you're working at. And plus, if we get enough people here, and somebody is going to know the answer. Like, there's a lot of smart minds, when we get all these folks here together. That's why it's called a mastermind. So we want to mastermind on some of these obstacles that you're facing. So write those questions down. Feel free. You can always email them. Just write it down, email it. If you're subscribed to this, I'll shoot you an email tomorrow. And then that way you can always respond with your questions. But we look forward to hearing all your questions, comments, concerns, whatever you got going on, and we will help you work through that, because that's what we do.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Huge shout out to everybody that did join us tonight in the live Zoom webinar. I know there was a bunch of folks that are starting to hop off, but we got April, Brandon, Calvin, Catherine, Dirk, Gary, George, Henna, Jamie F, Jamie R, Joseph, Larry, Maylene, Murray, Mark, Patrice, Patrick, Renee, Lorraine, April. We got all sorts of folks in here. Great turnout tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Richie.
Thank you, Ray.
Awesome. And come over and join us at Twitch TV, Level Up in Real Life, where we're going to get out of the rat race.
Yes, we are.
See you next week.